Welcome everyone, Tactical Lich here. Today we have an interesting battle sent in by Kharibdyss featuring a unique army pick, with Loki Felhard leading the army on foot, not only because he is a powerful duelist, but also because of this ability here, Merciless Slaver, -6 leadership to surrounding enemies. When stacked up with the rather mediocre unit of Kharibdyss, this suddenly become a rather impactful change because of the Abyssal Hell, another -8 leadership to enemy units. This doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're dealing with a low leadership faction like that of Greenskins, suddenly it does a lot more in battle. For the rest of the army, we have a front line of Black Corsairs, flanked by some Dread Spears, backed up by Dark Shards, another unit of Reaper Bolt Throwers at the back protected by Hellebrand Knight. On the flanks, we have some Dark Riders as the mobility and a couple of Cheese Runner Chariots, supported by the Sorcerers of Fire coming in with Piercing Bolts of Burning and Burning Head, which can add more leadership debuff in the form of Burnt Effect. As for the opposite side, we have the Greenskins coming in with some staple skirmishing cavalry, Mongrous Manji Marauders, which can provide armor-piercing fire, and also Death Creepers, which is a regenerating skirmish cavalry. For the front line there, a mixture of goblins, savage orcs, and savage orc biggins, flanked by some orc boy biggins for the anti-large armor piercing. For the single entity support, we have a goblin big boss coming in with, they need stabbing and also sort of anti-heroes. He'll be fighting alongside a black orc big boss, which has the rebel rouse for adding immune to psychology to surrounding units, as well as the brass cleaver for additional melee attack. Leading this goon squad will be none other than Azak the Slaughterer, coming in with his usual kit, Spirit Leech, Fate of Buna, and also Azak's art armor. Standing under Azak's Wyvern, a single unit of the Rusty Heirs, providing some nice ranged firepower as well as the armor sundering effect. That's all for the army builds, now let's get the battle going. Right at the start of the battle, the Reaper Bolt Throwers will be seeking their target, trying to shoot at the Orc Boy Biggins, a good target with their anti-large armor piercing shots for sure, but the placement of the artillery is a bit unfortunate here. Right behind the Kharibdyss, the large hitbox of the Dark Elf monster is blocking a lot of the line of sight of these Dark Elf artillery, so they don't actually have the greatest shot onto their target. On the side there, a little bit of skirmishing between the Greenskin skirmish calf and wait, these are not cheese runners, these are actually Colt 1 chariots. With armor piercing missiles, they actually can still do decent damage against Azak the Slaughterer, who dropped a Spirit Leech onto the Sorcerers of Fire. That means the Fire Sorcerers will need to stay away from Azak and his Spirit Leech, while the Greenskin skirmish calf will press on as the Colt 1 chariots retreat. Now for the front line there, Black Corsairs charging straight for the Goblins, knowing that they cannot fight this solid mid-tier infantry with anti-infantry bonus and heavy armor, so they will be backing off, allowing the Savage Orcs to take this fight. With the armor sundering effect from the Rusty Heirs, these Black Corsairs will trade less effectively into the Savage Orcs with great weapon strength and solid melee attack stats. On the other hand, Colt 1 chariots charging into the Savage Orcs, supporting the Dread Spears in this fight, while the Mongrous Manji Marauders will be eating a massive volley from all these armor-piercing crossbow bolts, and they shall soon be routed away. The Greenskin players probably should have just charged those skirmish cavalry straight into the Dark Shards to silence them, but alas, it is way too late for this now. In the middle, some interesting stuff is happening, with the Savage Orc Biggins being routed at half health. Let us slow down the battle a bit and see what actually is happening here. Despite having better stats than the Savage Orcs, these Savage Orc Biggins are quickly routed because of the debuff stacking. A total of -14 leadership severely reduces their holding power because their morale is dropped just low enough for terror to kick in. With the Biggins gone, the regular Savage Orcs will now be falling victim to the Kharibdyss as well. They will be the second unit routing to the leadership debuff combo, exposing the Rusty Heirs at the back line, allowing Loki Felhard and the Black Corsairs to pursue, so the Rusty Heirs will be pulling back. Azak will Spirit Leech the Kharibdyss, hoping to snipe it out, not a bad choice considering Kharibdyss does not have healing. A nice Burning Head going down the line there, routing Goblins, routing Savage Orcs, hitting the Savage Orcs all the way on the other side even, who are actually routed already from the Black Corsairs and Dark Shot Fire. Azak the Slaughterer trying to drop down and snipe out the Kharibdyss, but he is putting himself between a rock and a hard place. Loki Felhard and the anti-large Kharibdyss are just piling on top of Azak the Slaughterer, dishing out massive damage on the Greenskin Lord, and he has no choice but to retreat. Instead, his Orc underling, the Black Orc Big Boss, will be taking over this fight, charging straight into the Kharibdyss. On the far side there are some Savage Orcs attempting to rush the Dark Shards, but With the Koan chariots cycle charging, the Savage Orcs actually took substantial damage, and then the cover fire from the Dark Shards is enough to rout off these greenskin infantry. The Orc Borbor have been routed by a combination of armor-piercing fire including Dark Shards and Reaper Bolt Thrower crews. In the middle, the piercing bolts of burning is raining down fire upon the ground. However, the large hitbox of the Kharibdyss is messing things up again. The large hitbox forces it to take more shots from the spell than the Orc Borbor, so there is more friendly fire than actual damage to the enemies. However, on the battlefield as a whole, the Dark Elves is definitely getting an upper hand, with Murderous Prowess still activating right now. They're just cleaning up whatever left on the Greenskin army. All the infantry on the Greenskin side is pretty beat up despite still having the Orc Borbor. The Kharibdyss is getting routed for sure, but there is still low-key fell hard here. 1v2 the Black Orc Big Boss and the Goblin Big Boss. He is taking some damage, but he should be holding just fine with his Kraken's Helm, giving him that passive heal and melee defense buff. Spirit Leech doesn't help him though from Azak the Slaughter, but Azak right now is routed by the Dark Shot fire and also the Reaper Bolt Thrower crew shooting. Actually, the Bolt Throwers aren't targeting Azak, just that Azak caught some bolts meant for the Borboys. Rather unfortunate for the Greenskin Lord. Right now, Dark Elf infantry is taking control of the battlefield. Rusty Airs trying their best to shoot down the Koan chariots, even getting some Orc Borbor help as well. So the chariots would not be enjoying this fight at all, but over here, another piercing bolts of burning, this time doing a lot more damage against the Goblin Big Boss and the Black Orc Big Boss. They'll be routed at the same time, as Loki Felhat actually managed to hang on despite being double teamed by the Greenskin heroes. This one remaining Orc Borbor is trying to catch the Koan chariots, but their leadership is faltering because Loki Felhat is closely following behind. Wait, this is the Dread Spear's leadership. Let me just get the Orc Borbor. Because of Loki's merciless slaver, if the Orc Borbor stay around the Dark Elf Lord for any longer, their leadership is very likely to just break. Now seeing the Greenskins blobbing up, a juicy burning head is coming in. Going straight down the line on the Rusty Airs, doing massive damage. Their leadership is quickly dropping, while the rest of the Dark Elf infantry will chase them down. Loki Felhat is at the back chilling. He's not healing up right now because the Helm of Kraken needs him to be in melee to activate. At this point, Greenskins are routing across the board, and Dardysing will be winning with his Loki and Kharibdyss combo. Overall, a very nice build from Dardysing here. Actually inspired me to work on another wild army build, adding some stuff to this existing Dark Elf combination. Kharibdyss finally have a use now, with the leadership debuff stacked on top of Loki Felhat, smashing through the Greenskin front line and shutting down the missiles at the back. The rest of the infantry didn't do too much damage because the Dark Shards were doing all the carry here, shooting down the Skirmish Cav and the Orc Borbor. As the Greenskin player, probably a rather new player, has been using the cavalry rather conservatively, they could have charged the Skirmish Cav into the Dark Shards and Reaper Bolt Throwers, who are quite exposed in the early game there. Alas, but they missed out the opportunity and they paid dearly for it. As for the Orc Borbor, one of them did a lot of damage, running down the Kharibdyss and perhaps some of the Koan chariots, the other not so much as they were focus fired by the Dark Shards. Infantry wise, the Greenskins didn't do too much damage as they were terrified constantly by the presence of Kharibdyss and the leadership debuff of Loki Felhat. Azak the Slaughter dropping down and taking a lot of damage from the Kharibdyss and Loki, but his Spirit Leech did some pretty good damage, while the Black Orc Big Boss and the Goblin Big Boss, they were fighting one of the best duelists for the game, so they couldn't actually snipe him out with the healing and melee defense buff, and then being routed off by the piercing bolts of burning. That's all for today's battle. I hope you enjoy it, and if you want to see more Total War Warhammer action, be sure to subscribe to get notified for new videos. That's all for today, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.